Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the vice presidential debate between Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence that was held on October 7, 2020. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. Typically, vice presidential debates are not considered important, but this particular debate is an exception for at least two reasons. The first reason is the last presidential debate between Trump and Biden was really just a lot of noise, as I talked about in my review of that debate. The second is the age of the presidential candidates. By the time we reach Inauguration Day, Trump will be 74 years old and Biden will be 78 years old. If Biden wins, he will be the oldest person ever elected president. A recent study indicates that Trump has a 90% chance of surviving a 4-year term, and Biden has a 95% chance. This may seem a little bit backwards as Biden is older than Trump, but when weighing Trump's medical conditions, Biden is actually in slightly better shape. So even though either candidate would be likely to survive a 4-year term, it is conceivable that they would not. And it's conceivable that they could become incapacitated in some way, which means the vice president would step in. This debate between Harris and Pence had a much more relaxed tone than what we saw in the presidential debate. I think both candidates had some strong and weak points in their performance. I'll go through the strong and weak points for each candidate. I'll start with the strong points for Harris. She generally stayed within the time she had available, so she followed the rules of the debate. I thought she did a good job balancing her level of assertiveness throughout the roughly hour-and-a-half long debate, not being overly assertive, but also standing up for herself as needed. She also did a good job balancing positive points about herself and Biden against negative points she was trying to make about Trump and Pence. Looking at the strong points for Pence, I think he was able to be quite assertive without seeming particularly mean or unpleasant, and I think he did a good job of capitalizing on some of the things that Harris said or didn't say. Now moving to the weak points for Harris, I felt she took a chance with the "I won't be lectured" statement. I don't think it actually really hurt her, but she was taking an unnecessary risk without a clear reward in mind. So I get that they're going to be calculated risks, but I don't really understand what she was trying to gain from that statement. I guess trying to seem assertive. Debates are about challenging policies, records, and the performance of candidates. If we use an analogy to boxing, this would be like a boxer being in the ring and just stopping at one moment and saying, "I'm tired of being hit." That's just part of what happens in boxing. So candidates are going to challenge one another as part of a debate. That's why we use the word debate and not friendly get-together. The next weak point for her, she gave Pence the opportunity to attack her position regarding the packing the Supreme Court question. Now, both candidates dodged questions. The point of dodging is not to talk about it. But she really walked back into that, and he was waiting to strike. So I think she really just gave him an opportunity she didn't have to give him. The last weak point is the whole thing with Abraham Lincoln, the history lesson, as she called it. She made it appear as though Lincoln did not fill an empty Supreme Court seat because he thought it would be better to have the election first and let whoever was elected fill the seat. She was wrong about his motivation. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court died. His name was Roger Taney. Lincoln didn't have any way to do anything before the election because Congress was in recess until December. So he could name somebody he wanted to be appointed, but he couldn't actually make anything happen. Lincoln waited to name the candidate because he wanted to get expressions of public opinion from the country. As it turns out, of course, Lincoln was reelected, and it seems likely if he was not reelected, he would have filled the seat before leaving office. Interestingly, Lincoln did vote to create a 10th Supreme Court seat, so Harris missed a good point she could have made about packing the Supreme Court. Now, moving to the weak points for Pence. Well, as I said, both candidates dodged questions, but it seemed like Pence did that a little bit more. Like he was saying, "Thank you for the question. Now I'm going to talk about something that I want to talk about." Why did they need a moderator if he was going to do his own thing? The biggest liability for Pence, though, was talking over the time limit. I can understand finishing the current sentence after the moderator says thank you, which was her way of saying stop talking. But Pence just kept going, and I felt like he really didn't make any good points when he went over the time limit, because I was hearing him talk, but also the moderator repeatedly saying thank you. It was highly distracting. He would have been better off just wrapping it up on time. I have a theory about why he did this, though. Pence is typically good at debating, so it was a little confusing when he kept breaking the rule with the time limits. It was detracting from his performance. I'm thinking that if he had come into this debate and not been assertive in that way, if he had followed the rules, it would have widened the gap between his performance and Trump's performance in the presidential debate. By going over the time limit and being that assertive, he moved a little bit closer to Trump, like this was their shared strategy. This is what they were planning on doing. So in a way, Pence tried to normalize Trump's performance. Now, I don't know if that's what really happened. It was just a theory. In addition to the strong and weak points, I wanted to mention a few other oddities from the debate. I don't think these factors necessarily helped or hurt anybody. I just found them interesting. Harris mentioned toilet paper at one point. I probably would have avoided that topic. Again, seems like there's nothing really to gain from bringing that up. There was a 2-minute period where there was a fly on Pence's hair. It was highly distracting. They should have worked out some contingency plan for something like that, like some signal or something so Pence could know the camera was not on him and he could knock that fly off of his hair. Now moving to the question, who won the debate? I thought that Harris delivered a consistent performance. I think that Pence had more variability. He was able to get in a few more good points, but he also had that talking over the time limit behavior, which I think hurt him. The distributions of their performances were different, but overall I would say it was a draw. There were no obvious blunders that people could latch onto and say, oh look, that candidate's not good, but there were also no real key knockout blows either. I like this debate much better than the presidential debate. It seemed more like a proper debate. Some people have said that we didn't learn anything from this debate, just like we didn't learn anything from the presidential debate, but I disagree. I actually thought that this debate was much more revealing about policy positions, although it really didn't have to be good in order to be better than the presidential debate. It could have been horrible and catastrophic and still been better than that one. The presidential debate gave new meaning to the phrase, setting the bar low. Among other things, this debate confirmed that people can't pay attention to what you're saying when there's a fly on your head. It's not often we get to see an experiment like that in front of millions of people, so that was educational. The vice presidential debate was energetic and heated, while at the same time being civil for the most part. I think Pence really touched on something at the end when he said that disagreement is okay and we will come together in the end, kind of implying that there is a time to argue and a time to heal. Perhaps one of the difficulties in the United States right now is that we seem to be stuck in arguing mode and don't see a clear path to healing. Those are my thoughts on the vice presidential debate. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.